In his letter of June 3rd, 1941, my grandfather copies the following new official edict, quote, "As a reply to your query dated the 26th of May, we have to communicate to you that there is no possibility for non-Aryans to receive a Japanese transit visa." And in his second to last letter in the correspondence, dated the 1st of November 41, my grandfather gives up his hope of immigrating via Cuba because, quote, "persons under 60 years of age," and he was then in his late 50s, and my grandmother had turned 50. Persons under 60 years of age are not permitted to immigrate. In his last letter, dated the 8th of November 1941, a month before Pearl Harbor, my grandfather casts his usually detail-filled request to the wind, and figuratively throwing up his arms, just appeals for help. That's Roman numeral 9. From our cousin Alfred, we have just received a postcard from Cholet in the south of France. They have no possibility to immigrate. They too will have to adjust to their fate. Therefore, dearest ones, take care and try anything that you can so that we may join you, perhaps via Switzerland or via Spain or via any place you can think of. And please leave no stone unturned. Please write to us soon again, and may you both have good luck. The final stage that Kubler-Ross speaks about is that of coming to peace with one's fate. And my grandparents' letters conclude fully sensing their impending doom, but they sound reconciled with their goodbyes. My grandmother particularly expresses the reason that this being at peace has such a reconciliatory tone. Their tone is calm and collected, embracing and even euphoric. And you might say, well, why euphoric? Because at this late date in the fall of 1941, they have just received a letter from their other daughter in Palestine announcing that she has given birth to my grandparents' first grandchild, Ruth. Not only that, Rosalind and Jonas are sent a photo of their heir. In her fourth, the last letter, dated the 21st of September 1941, my grandmother writes, and this is Roman numeral 10, quote, "I am only thinking of my Liesl with the little sweetheart, Bobbele, and her husband." The word she uses, Bobbele, comes from the German word Puppe, the little doll, and she repeats the word Bobbele when she talks about her niece Ilse, who perished in Riga, sending greetings to all, but first and foremost to Bobbele Ruth. In the next letter of the 13th of October, she states, "I am wishing Liesl and her husband the best, and am sending a heartfelt kiss to my little Ruth from her grandmother." In her last letter, she ironically calls Ruth little and tiny because the baby, in fact, will allow the family to live on, and calls her, quote, "unsere einzige Freude," our sole joy. Now, suddenly my grandmother has 4 generations of her family to concern herself with. Interlinking themes at the end of their correspondence shed light on my grandparents' inner stasis. My grandparents' domestic life, though sharply curtailed, is referred to in more detail. My grandmother refers to their dependence on puddings and beans as dietary staples, and she addresses her daughter and son-in-law with her tongue and her inner cheek. In Roman numeral 11, she says, "Dear Kate, now you could get a lot of puddings. I make a lot of them. You always wanted puddings, and now I regret not having made more in the past. And when I'm preparing beans, dear Hans, I always think of you. Our meals together were so nice. I'm hoping in the future to cook for you all, according to your wishes. But I know over there you use lots of more cans." As far as spending time with her husband goes, she states, quite lightly alluding to their isolation, quote, We spend much time together at home, and the nicest thing is when we're playing pinochle. And that card game, yeah, is also a possible metaphor. It's a higher scoring, and always, it's a card game that always requires a strategy. And in her third to last letter, dated September 21st, my grandmother speaks movingly about her paranormal communications with her older daughter, my mom. At night, I always dream of you both. I am talking with you, dear Kate, in my dreams, and when I wake up in the morning, I have to realize that it is merely a dream. But I'm hoping that in this new year, this will turn into a reality. What is so moving to me as my parents' child is the gratitude voiced by my grandparents toward my parents in most every letter in the last half of the year of their correspondence. No plan has worked. All their strategies have failed for any number of reasons. But Jonas and Rosal voiced their gratitude. And as my grandfather states in June of 41, in this Roman numeral 12, he says, "Therefore, my most cherished dear ones, I am very often thanking you, and your ears will resound with this gratitude. We always praise the two of you. As a consequence, my dears, we kiss you from the bottom of our hearts, your loving father." In an earlier passage in the same letter, my grandfather states that his epistolary conversation with his children has become the, quote, the most pleasant conversation because he's united with them in spirit, im Geist. And this is a repetition of a statement of April of 41, in which he calls this correspondence meine liebste Beschäftigung, my favorite activity. It is the mutual sense of devotion that makes these letters genuine. As my grandmother states in her second to the last letter, dated the 1st of November 1941, "Euer Gedanken weilen bestimmt des Öfteren bei uns, es beruht auf Gegenseitigkeit." Your thoughts tarry palpably often here, and that is due to their mutuality. And my grandmother's deep-seated sense of unmediated religion, with its direct access to the Numen, to God, is the final word in her letters. God is all-enveloping, omniscient, and trusting. Her words are rendered as your Roman numeral 13. And she says, "My most fervent wish is unfortunately not going to become a reality. And so we have to adjust to what dear God has desired. It is early on Friday evening after I've lit the Sabbath candles, and I'm now casting my glance, looking abroad to you, my beloved ones, hoping that you both are healthy as we are. We have not heard from you since early October, and therefore are not happy. Unfortunately, we have had no luck in our immigration plans. We must therefore have to wait to see what our fate has in store for us and how dear God leads us. I only have abiding trust in Him. Ich habe nur festes Vertrauen zu ihm." The first letter of the German word him, ihm, was often capitalized by German Jews. But in this case, my grandmother chooses to capitalize all three letters, thus reflecting her own unbroken creed, her total belief in God. Thank you. 1:30, and we have agreed to around 15 minutes for questions and answers. But it's 1:30, and many of you have classes, and go, please, if you can stay, fine. If you can't, no problem. And we're prepared to, I'd love to engage you in any questions and answers, anything you'd like to know more about, whatever, please. And Emily?
We have microphones?
Good. Yes, there
on
should
both
be.
aisles.
Good.
Please just raise your hands if you have a question.
Okay. Natasha? Just go, please. Of course. We still had said hello to each other several times now. Hi, holiday services, please.
Thank you so much for your very moving talk. I think I and many others are appreciative that you're able to share that incredible story with us today. My question has to do with what were the psychological ramifications for your mother in the process of translating these letters with you? That's not something
She didn't translate them. She never translated them. She typed them, we typed them together, but she typed them, and it's a wonderful question. It was a release. It really was, because this, the stash of stuff in her vanity place. But you know what's very interesting, and bless you, thank you for asking the question, because I had to, all my friends know, I kept my parents' apartment. And I kept it as my room, my own, that's where I write, but I have so many things from World War II there, family stuff, including my great-grandfather, your voice you had, his, Kiddush cup, and, don't ask. But in any case, I couldn't find the letters. I had a typescript of it, but they were not in the vanity, okay? And I thought, oh my, and my partner read, where are the letters? That was the first question you asked then, where are the letters? I said, well, where are the letters? So I looked high and low, and they were in a cabinet in the bedroom, but she had transferred them from the vanity. And I think in part, she had typed them up. They were our project, and it was my choice to go. But that question is so important. I think it was really a release for her. And when we worked on it together, we were communing. I know this sounds corny, but you work in Holocaust. We were communing with our ancestors. We were communing together. Great. Please, Dora.
Thank you, Steve. I think it's going to take me the afternoon. This was just such a...
And you're going to a funeral next.
I know, but what a profound talk to really process.
Thank you.
I so appreciate the courage that you took to share with us this. I also feel like this is the first chapter. And one of the other chapters I'd love to hear from you more on is the impact that you alluded to a couple of times on your young parents in New York and having children and trying to start a life in the United States. And I just put myself in their shoes and think of the enormous pressure and impact it must have been on them to have these letters. And you said they weren't talked about for a number of years. So in the future, so that's not your question, but just I'd ask you sometime to share with us some of that, your perspective on
Hey,
that.
the next time we meet at Applebee's, we're going to talk. Great? Yes. Please.
Over here.
Kind of carrying on from that note, do you have any
Why?
idea?
Is that you? Or?
It is.
It's okay, speak.
Do you have any idea how their parents' experience affected your own parents and uncles or aunts? I'm sorry, I don't know if you have any, but how it affected their own beliefs religiously?
Okay, and beliefs of who religiously? Of who?
Your parent, the children of your grandparents.